Okay, let's continue. So in this lesson, we're going to draw out our wires onto this template and have them subtract off to create our boolean, sort of the final phase. And for that, we're going to be using a culmination of curve brushes, insert curve brushes to get us there. Now, we haven't talked about insert curve brushes, so we're going to do a little brief introduction to that here in this lesson and talk to you about the importance of what we need to keep in mind and some of the ways on how to work it and what to do to manipulate radius and depth, etc. To begin with, one thing I'm going to say is that it is a goal that we're going to have to be able to differentiate between this boolean and the wires on two different subtools. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you duplicate the subtool that you have over here, not through the control maneuver, but through the duplicate function maneuver, like so, and make sure to turn off the visibility of the top boolean. And then from here, the first thing that we have to recognize is that if you're going to work with a curve brush, you will run into a scenario where you have to delete your multiple subdivisions to get there. So that will be the first thing we're going to do here. And I'm going to rotate it around to the back here so I can give you a little bit of a demonstration of a curve brush. For this, we're going to go to wires, and then from there we're going to hit the I key and look through all of our brushes. And for this, I'm going to choose this brush, Insert Cylinder Brush. Or you could just simply, for example, you could just hit I and then Y as the quick key for that. I, then Y. I key, Y key. So from here, to give you an idea what it is, once you've deleted your subdivisions, just draw a line through and you can already see a brush. Now if you wish to adjust the radius or the size of this piece, you can do so in real time by changing out the radius of your draw size by holding down spacebar and lowering the draw size. You can also do it up here as well. And then just going into the center of this curve and clicking, and it will update to a smaller radius. Now if you will notice also, you have, once you draw out a stroke, that stroke has a curve inside of it. It's sort of like its edit curve. This is something where you can use to edit the piece like so. And to go further, one thing I will say is when you're on stroke, make sure you have curve, bend, and snap to surface turned on when you're going through all of this, and also to make sure that your depth is set accordingly. Now, with that said, I'm going to also say that you can, if you wish, you can continue this curve if it's still active and on here by just going to the end of the curve and just moving your brush out to the side until you see that red line connecting to the very end of the curve, and then left hold and click and you can continue on drawing the curve, and then you'll see it's still editable as you see fit. And while in here, this is just like the move tool, you can maneuver it around as well. So that's sort of the big basics of the curve. The one other thing that we're going to talk about here is that and it's going to be the most important thing about this, is when we go through all of this stuff here and we draw out a curve, we're going to need to go through and make sure we have the appropriate depth applied. So if I draw out a curve, and I'll just make it a little bit bigger so you can see by increasing my draw size, you can kind of see it's resting right on top of there. If we go up to brush and we go to depth, you will normally it will be default at the center. I have it all the way to the top, but if you if you grab the center of that dot, and you can find yourself actually going up or down on here, and then of course if you click on the curve, it will update and go sink in. When we draw our curves or our wires or our tubes, whatever, you want to always make sure that they are sinking into the piece that you see here, like so. So please keep that all in mind. So let me go ahead and just give you a demonstration of just that, like, so you don't need to really go too crazy any further beyond all of that. But the last thing I would like to say is that when you're done drawing this one curve, once you're done, just go ahead and click off to the side here, and that will make your curve disappear, and it will allow you to draw a new curve. And again, if you wish to draw a curve in the center here, you may find yourself fighting with it because it may just snap into this curve right here. So again, you're going to have to make this curve disappear by clicking off into the model and then just drawing out a new curve. And then you can kind of see the possibilities with how we can make a Boolean work this way. Alright, so that's the basic 101 instruction on a curve. Now from this point on, I'm going to go through all of this and do the same thing, except I'm going to do a demonstration of a pattern that I'd like to do on here. It's just going to be a simple little curvature pattern from this point to this point, and then some editing to go with it, so that it looks like it's kind of plugging in, because remember, this is the high point, as you will see. And again, if you feel the need to make the brush size a little smaller, you can always do so like that. Or maybe if you wish to make it a little bit bigger, you can do so. Now, this is the part I'd like you to get into is after you're done with that, go ahead and clear the curve off of there by left-clicking a blank space and then hitting the B key and choosing a curve multi-tube, which is just this exact same thing, except it has just a smooth pattern like so, and has the same concept that is applied to it, where you can manipulate the string just the same way. And you can go through and again make sure that when you're doing it, that if you wish, you can go through and adjust the pattern so that it does rest underneath or above the piece, so it looks like it's going under or over. And let's see, I can go through and I'm going to be switching off between, and what I'm going to do for this to keep things a little bit simple is I'm going to primarily be using these two wires here and using essentially two different clay tube patterns to with different size variances in the radius to get us there. So like, for example, this is a different radius. I'm going to increase my draw size slightly a bit here so that well, that's a bit profound. And then make sure that that is going in like so. And then I can just kind of go back and forth between these two. Don't feel try to remember also that if you hit the brush key and you go through and hit move topology key, you can also manipulate your brushes out this way. This is also an excellent way in case you've lost your curve and you want to go back again. You can also do things that way. Remember, don't forget, Alt key pushes toward or away from you, so that is an additional tool that will help get you further manipulation of this key. So just kind of keep that all in mind when you're drawing out your curves like so. I'm going to go ahead and just draw a few more out on this and remind you that when you're going through all these pieces here, please remember that we're choosing certain panels on here to draw our pieces out on. So what that means is I'm choosing only the high panels here to draw on. I'm not really going too crazy on the upper panels. I'm only choosing the ones that are cavity panels just for now to put my emphasis and focus on. So when you make a wire pattern, go to the next one and across and make a wire pattern like that. So what you want to do is what you did here, make for what you did here, what you did here, what you did here, and what you did here. Alright, and then once we fill out all of these wire patterns, we're going to go ahead and show you how to separate them off and how we can turn them into booleans themselves. So stay tuned.